I got a lot of female solo travelers telling me you can't go there thinking they're going to accept you as a U.S. citizen doing the things you do. Hello Explorers, Kid Explorer here, and today I'm back with my monthly installment of solo female travel tips and discussions. And today we're going to talk about where solo female travelers should not travel to when they're traveling solo, obviously. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about things from my personal experiences, and then I'm going to share some things that was revealed from my Facebook friends and Instagram followers where solo female travelers should not go alone. So let's get into today's video. So I just want to say that everyone's experience when they travel is always going to be different. And obviously different locations within a country is definitely going to be different. So with that said, based on my experiences, most of the places I would still travel there again solo. But there are some countries that I have been to where you definitely should take a little extra precaution based on the location you may be in to make sure you're safe. The first country I want to talk about is Brazil. The country of Brazil is huge. There are so many different towns, cities, different types of people throughout the country, as in any country, right? I went to different cities while I was in Brazil. I went to Horizontina, which is a very, very, very small town in the southern part of the country, which I definitely felt completely safe there, but there was also not much to do there. Whereas I also went to Rio and Porto Alegre and Iguazu Falls. So for the most part, I felt okay, but there was a situation where I was like kind of concerned for my safety because one of my coworkers left me at the mall late with no way for me to get back. But I definitely had to take a taxi, and this was like before ride sharing was a thing and before like having great connection, you know, with your phone and everything like that. The taxi driver was like driving me all around Porto Alegre, going back by like the bus station and everything. It was very concerning. And I had heard of people, or specifically women, having safety issues where either being taken or, you know, worse situations. Luckily, it didn't happen to me, but I definitely was in an uncomfortable situation during that moment. So I definitely recommend, if you go there, to use your street smarts as you would anywhere and don't get into any situation like that. Again, be alert as you go. Next up, I don't even know if I want to say this country's name in my video because of things that are happening right now. So you could probably guess what I'm about to say, but I don't know if I would go to Russia solo, especially as a Black female. I did see a few Black people while I was in Russia and they spoke Russian, and I'm like, are there actually Russian Black people? I'm not 100% sure, but it definitely is concerning. Depending on where you're coming from and what you're doing, it may not be the best to go there as a solo female. And especially during heightened times, like right now, where I'm from, our countries are not on good terms and have really never been. And so that's something you have to consider when you go to another country. Like, is your home country friends with that country? Like, you may not want any issues with it. And what is going on in the current world? Obviously, this is a place you wouldn't want to go right now, period. So as I was doing research for this video, I found an article from Forbes, and it actually confirmed my thoughts about Brazil and Russia. And actually says Brazil is number 2 on the most dangerous place for women to travel. With Brazil, it scored badly with street safety and intentional homicide against women. And it says the US government actually warns tourists not to walk alone at night or physically resist any robbery attempts. Obviously, this is something you should do anywhere. If I'm traveling solo, I wouldn't be walking around at night anyway, okay? Not in an uncomfortable situation. Whereas for Russia, they say they scored below par on both the intentional homicide against women and non-partner sexual violence. And it also says they performed poorly in a host of categories, including being the 9th worst with legal discrimination against women. Just keep that in mind. Again, I'm saying not to go. This is just information to make sure you are alert if you go to either of these countries solo. And the third one I want you to think about, I live in this country, the United States, but there are a lot of different places in this country where you just need to be alert of your surroundings and being safe, just as if you would do in Brazil. I would not walk some places in this country alone in the daytime or at night, period. And there are cases where women aren't treated the best in legal situations. But just keep that in mind if you are visiting the US, or if you live in certain parts of the US and you want to travel somewhere else. Just remember, there are places or there are people who do not treat women with the same respect throughout this country. So what did other people have to say, my Facebook friends and my Instagram followers? I got a lot of female solo travelers telling me that Morocco is not it for solo female travelers. So one person said, for the most part, in traveling solo, they had good experiences. Felt safe in Marrakesh, but she did not like the pestering of the vendors, etc. Whereas on Facebook, I had more comments about Morocco. Someone said, do not recommend Morocco. The worst harassment I've ever encountered in my life. Too bad, because it's a stunning country. And then someone else said they second Morocco and highly recommends to visit still, but definitely safety in numbers. So what did Forbes have to say about Morocco? So it says Morocco ranked the worst in their list for intimate partner violence. It also scored poorly with gender inequality and the global gender gap. The street safety score was not much better either. So I actually had a friend who went to Morocco and also confirmed the harassment when walking around the streets of Morocco. I believe they went to Marrakesh. So the harassing from vendors, which you can get that in a lot of countries, the harassment from vendors. You gotta know how to put your blinders on and do what you have to do when you're in a vendor situation. But I also believe, my friend told me they had like some serious harassment like in a taxi and stuff like that. So it is definitely a place that you may want to consider going with a group to travel with. I actually was planning to go to Morocco in 2020 and that trip got canceled because you know why. But maybe a month before going, I started to get concerned about going to Morocco because of all the information I kept reading about safety and women and going there. I was definitely going to have tours. I wanted to make sure I stayed somewhere safe. But I do know people who have went there solo and had a great time and gave recommendations on what to do when you go. If you don't have the courage to go to Morocco solo as a female, definitely don't do it, because you may be put into a situation you just don't want to be in. And if you don't want to deal with that, definitely don't do it. And like the one person says, safety in numbers, is better to go or at least have a connection or a tour when you get there so you can feel a little bit more comfortable traveling solo. We want you back at home in one piece after you travel somewhere, right? Or back at home and not like, I don't ever want to travel again. So make sure you do your research before you go somewhere. And again, safety is in numbers. Another place that people had actually mixed reviews on it, because somebody recommended it, someone did not, back and forth. One person said on my Instagram, South Africa, loved it, women should absolutely go, but wouldn't recommend going solo. Whereas on Facebook, I also got South Africa, do not recommend South Africa. Highly recommends to visit, and again, they say safety is in numbers, whereas someone else actually recommended South Africa. So what does Forbes say about it? So South Africa is actually considered to them, and by the way, this Forbes article is from 2019. I'm sure it hasn't, who's had time to update this? We've been in a whole panty since this article came out. And I'm pretty sure more of the world isn't safe right now. But anyways, that's a different discussion. But South Africa was listed number 1 as the most dangerous place for women to visit as a traveler. And they say, with this nation scoring poorly on street safety and many other factors, women in South Africa have been historically treated cruelly. But thankfully, situations have been slowly improving. Often traveling women to South Africa are warned not to hike, drive, walk, or move about alone, and to generally behave conservatively. So I did go to South Africa in 2018, but I went with one of my friends. It was just 2 women traveling around the country. And I must say, we went to Johannesburg and Cape Town. I would say Cape Town, I definitely could not see how there was issues with that. And again, I still probably wouldn't have been wandering around solo at night, but I definitely felt very comfortable. I actually went out while my friend was taking a nap, trying to take photos and stuff. And we did a lot of wandering through Cape Town and everything was perfectly fine. Whereas Johannesburg is a major city, just like any major city in the United States. There are parts of Johannesburg I definitely would not be wandering around. And actually, we got warned in one part of Joburg by a local, like, we shouldn't wander around because of our facial features. We don't look like we're from South Africa because, you know, a lot of Black Americans are partially European. But since our bone structures aren't as evident as South Africans, we don't look South African. We don't blend in, right? So we did get warned about walking around certain parts of Joburg from the locals, but other parts was perfectly fine. It's like any city, even here in Atlanta, I would say is pretty similar to Johannesburg. There are parts of Atlanta I would not be caught walking around at night, whereas there's other parts I would. You know, sometimes I maybe just don't feel comfortable. I may not even walk that far at night. There are a lot of dangerous situations in cities in the United States, just as in Johannesburg. But definitely take that in mind. I actually know a couple people who live in South Africa, and they are women, whether they're from there or not. They may actually be from the United States, and they are there living alone, solo, and so everything's perfectly fine. So again, you have to be cautious in what you're doing. Make sure you're not standing out. Make sure you don't go places flashing jewelry, electronics and stuff to make you a target. Just be yourself, have your 360 on, be safe and be cautious. With that said, I've already preached to you enough throughout the video, but I just want to recap. These countries, I'm not targeting them and singling them out and saying don't go there, okay? I am saying just keep in mind that there may be parts of those countries that just aren't safe for women because of what they believe in, or maybe they're not safe at all. Or maybe you need to keep in mind, like, the relations are bad with your home country. But there are other countries in the world where you do have to keep in mind that women are treated differently because of that culture. They may have to wear things to cover their hair. You may not be able to show your shoulders when you're there. So you definitely always have to do your research to make sure you know what you should be doing as a woman in that culture. You can't go there thinking they're going to accept you as a U.S. citizen doing the things you do. No, you need to go there and be as a woman in their culture. It's unfortunate, but it's better to be safe and sorry than, having your shoulders out and being called something you definitely are not. So yeah, and then make sure, like, in some places in the world, it's not safe to walk around at night. You can definitely tell if it is safe by seeing other women walking around, getting information from the locals, just seeing how it is and getting that feel for the city once you get there. And again, make sure you don't make yourself a target. Make sure you're always on alert and paying attention to what you're doing. And make sure you do your research and look up the countries that you're planning to go to and those cities and towns you plan on visiting to know what is the actual safety concerns of that location, so you can be alert and make sure you know what you're doing once you get there. And again, if you don't want to tackle those things alone, definitely find someone to go with or find an actual tour company that you can roll with so you can feel safe and someone's always there to check on you. So if you have any questions about this video, make sure you leave them down below. If there is a country you have went to as a solo female that you did not feel comfortable going to, make sure you leave that down below in the comment box, because I would like to know, and everyone else watching this video would like to know as well. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. It is free and it helps my channel provide more content and better content to you in the future. And make sure you share this video with your friends, family, and your social media networks. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day or night wherever in the world you are. Bye.